Hey guys, thank you for joining me and welcome back to the channel. Moritz from MVRugby, and full disclosure, I only watched the New Zealand versus England game today, and wow, gripping game, gripping piece of rugby extravaganza, if I can call it that. How the haka, eh? Wow. Really put some effort in there. Corey Taylor leading at this time in the absence of TJ Perenara, and they played a really strong game. All Blacks off the bat, the forwards really started bashing the English just off the starting blocks, and really made strong carries, played a strong game. English had to dig deep for their defensive lines in this game. Just showing once again, that New Zealand should never be underestimated under any circumstances. At any point of the game, should they be, short-changed, underestimated by the opponents at all. There was one familiar name on the field though, beside any one of the players, Nick Berry. Seeing him for the first time again after that fateful game against, I think it was 2021, again between South Africa and the British and Irish Lions, where he was outed by Rassie Erasmus over a really terrible officiating game. I mean, honestly, how he didn't dig his head into a hole somewhere. I counted about 28 erroneous calls in that game. Wow, it was just a shit show, to be honest. He then went ahead and accused Rassie of character assassination. But I mean, really, was Rassie the one here that was assassinating your character, Nick, or were you the one? Rassie wasn't the one officiating. I've said long since, it was someone that I know, that very dear to me, and one of my family members, that pointed out, that, why haven't we seen Nick Berry officiating any games recently? So although World Rugby doesn't always, we think, while World Rugby doesn't always come through and is very transparent to the public about their decisions and everything, especially where the referees are concerned, there are certain steps taken. I have to assume that, because this is the first match I ever seen Nick Berry coming in after that fateful game, and I thought to myself, I'm really going to keep an eye on this performance by Nick and see, has he learned his lesson, has he improved? And I have to bow down to him. Nick, you've redeemed yourself. Not a lot of erroneous calls, in my opinion, that was made, but then again, that's just my opinion. Not as bad as in that game in 2021. It was 2020. Sorry, yes, 2020. Just the year after we won the World Cup in 2019. There is a few discrepancies though that I'm going to run through a bit later, that I do feel wasn't really quite the right call, or just there was some inaction by Nick as well. But I'll talk about that in a bit. Beauden Barrett making a huge impact on the game in only a time span of 20 minutes. The last 20 minutes of the game, coming in and really, put the English on the back foot. His kicking was on point the whole time. Damien McKenzie really had his kicking boots on, not missing a single shot to the poles. And same with Marcus Smith, for England as well, playing a really hard and really good game. He had to come on again in the second half after he was swapped out because Freeman had to go for a head injury assessment. So yeah, what an exciting game, as you can see. Still a bit of controversy coming in. Most points being scored by Damon McKenzie. The All Blacks scoring 2 tries in the game, but really, the forwards in that game was on par. Although there was quite a few times when their performance could have been better. As soon as pressure started mounting on them from the defensive teams, they really started making, forced offloads that really didn't help them at all. Fumbling the ball, making ball handling errors, being forced by the, rapid response by the English team. The first try, obviously, being Telea, fantastic one. As the breakdown happened, he thought quickly. The ball came rolling out, picked it up, really made a gun on the blind side, hitting the try there very early on in the game. That was responded to by Faya Waboso with up and cross kick by Marcus Smith. Also really well placed try that, which was also follow up later on by another cross kick try. I think it was by Freeman. Again, cross kick by Marcus Smith. Really well played by the English team there. 2 penalty conversions by Damien McKenzie in the first half, but also some penalty conversions by England. The last try scored by Freeman, finishing off the first half, and then England going comfortably into, well, not comfortably really. They had a 1-point lead going into the second half, and then some controversy right at the beginning of the second half. Nick Berry, first of all, calling a penalty for New Zealand and then turning it over to England's advantage. It was for a dead ball. I think it was Cody Taylor going in to contest the ball, and then Surveyor that came basically over the ball, making a clearance. Clearing. I think it was Henry Slade that he cleared off the ruck, but Nick Berry then turned it over because Surveyor came in early. It's with a breakdown, when a player goes to contest the ball, it should technically be only the player that made the tackle, then release, contest. And Surveyor basically engaged as soon as Corey Taylor or Cody Taylor, engaged, not really giving an opportunity for Henry Slade to clear, and then he basically ended up clearing Henry Slade off the ruck there, which then turned over the penalty for England's benefit. And then a successful penalty conversion by Marcus Smith again, putting England, quite comfortably ahead of New Zealand at 17-13, and that's where he basically stayed for most of the second half until Beauden Barrett, with a fantastic break, giving himself enough space towards the back to receive the pass, and then basically gunning through, making a break for it, beating a whole bunch of defenders before he was taken down, then offload to Telea that secured the try there. Absolutely fantastic play by that young man. I think it was 154 caps for the New Zealand team, and still proving to us that he's got it. I mean, well-deserved man in the match, in my opinion, honestly. Also scoring a held up right at the sort of at the end of the second half. Also basically getting a penalty for the All Blacks, there was a bit of controversy there again, but I have to give it to Nick Berry, spot on that call. The basically came from a line out. England went into a rolling maul, or driving maul, and the driving maul was stopped successfully, dead in its tracks by the New Zealand forward defenders. Basically, Jamie George and Ollie Lawrence then broke off from the ruck, forming a new ruck. But now Ollie Lawrence was in front of Jamie George, the ball carrier. Now that is obstruction, clear obstruction. And so that even though the ball was successfully held up by Beauden Barrett, fantastic, classic New Zealand play, grabbing Jamie George from the front and then pulling him down on top of him, as Archie Snyman would display again in the South Africa versus Ireland round 2 game later that afternoon. Successfully holding the ball up, trapping the ball between him and Jamie George, but then again getting it turned over into a penalty. Damien McKenzie kicking it out as the clock went over the full time, 80 minutes, and which comfortably seeing New Zealand taking the victory there in Auckland with a 24-17 lead. So a much better score than they had on last week, which was only a 1-point lead, which is absolutely fantastic. New Zealand, especially in the sort of towards the end of the second half, they went into classic New Zealand running rugby offloads. Didn't quite pan out into a try. I would have loved to have seen that actually convert into a try scoring opportunity, but unfortunately it ended up in a penalty that then Damien McKenzie then took over. And again, I have to reiterate which I still truly believe was an erroneous call by the ref in last week's game. Damien McKenzie did his usual ritual as he does before he kicks, with the timer clock ticking down, and this time they actually displayed the timer clock on the screen, and you could clearly see he still had enough from him actually taking the charge down to kicking the ball. He still had enough time. So I'm not convinced that ref actually read the timing clock correctly. That whistle was blown too quickly. Damien McKenzie does his usual ritual, and that was the only time he was actually penalised for taking too long, which I'm still not convinced he did. The unforced error by Amaro Itoje on Tuipulotu in the line-out, he did play him in the air. Tuipulotu his feet wasn't grounded yet when Itoje moved in, grabbed him from behind, pulled him down onto his feet, in fact, and then rolled him backwards. That resulted in a knock-on for England. Basically, Nick Berry claiming that Tuipulotu knocked the ball forward in the tackle. That should have been at least a penalty. I wouldn't say yellow card or anything. He caught him in the air, played him in the air, and then pulled him down. So no dangerous play there really at all. But it should have been a penalty at least. That resulted in a scrum for England, which New Zealand won, I believe. And New Zealand's scrums was absolutely dead on, almost like taking a page out of the Springboks playbook. They really made a strong push in every scrum. England nearly, collapsing almost every time. They gave away so many penalties in the first and second half, where New Zealand's discipline was top-notch. Honestly, rarely giving away penalties. I think they had about 2 or 3 penalties conceded in the second half. Not really any penalties in the first half, where England conceded, I think it was close to about 5 or 6 penalties in the full game. Not really the discipline that they would have liked to have seen, but that wasn't on their side at this point. So most of the points for New Zealand scored off of Damien McKenzie's boot. Marcus Smith also spot on with his kicks as well. But it was really Beauden Barrett that made a massive impact. And as you know, a bit of the overlooked player in that game as well was another player that was really making an impact in that game, Stephen Perifetta, the fullback for the All Blacks. I mean, absolutely strong running game that he played. A few times that he just, beaten about 3 or 4 England defenders, going through, offloading to Leia, also beating another 3 or 4 England defenders. So fantastic running rugby played. England did kick a lot of possession, especially towards the end of the second half. They kick a lot of possession away. And again, when you're behind with 7 points, kicking ball possession away isn't a very successful strategy. Oxen Chair commented on it in this week's game, where South Africa, trailing behind Ireland, kept kicking ball possession away. You didn't want that. When they were leading by 2 points, they kept kicking ball possession away. You don't want, at that crucial time, you don't want to be giving ball possession away. Keep the ball going. If you are ahead, keep the ball possession so you can play for time. If you're behind, keep ball possession so you can keep attacking. The minute you lose that ball possession, you're giving opportunity to the opponents to start attacking again. And you lose those opportunities. You have no guarantee when you do an up and over, when you do a high ball, that you are going to actually get possession back. New Zealand has given us an absolute brilliant show of controlling the high balls from England, the same as Ireland did to South Africa. So guys need to look at they do need to look at their strategies a bit, because these constant kicking balls doesn't always play off very well. They need to actually make more wiser decisions about when to keep the possession and when to kick away, because as we saw with Beauden Barrett's play, constantly keeping England on the back foot, on the defensive, keeping them in their half, for a large portion of the second half, with strategic, well-placed kicks. It doesn't always have to find the touchline. Don't always have to try to go for 50-22, but to keep the opposing team in their half and always on the back foot, so you can keep the pressure on them. That's the way you actually force errors from them, and we've seen it happening countless of times. Now, just in conclusion, I also want to address something that I have addressed before. There was some court instances that I heard, as especially when you have Marcus Smith doing a kicking penalty or a cross kick and that kind of thing, the New Zealand fans letting out boos. I'm quite proud of South Africans thus far that we haven't stooped to that kind of level. It really puts a sour taste in your mouth, and it's not in the spirit of the game. And I would like to appeal to the New Zealand fans and fans around the world that love the game. We all do love the game, and this is not in the spirit of the game. Let's respect the opponents for the world-class players that they are, especially when a fly half or fullback is lining up for a kick, whether it's either penalty or try conversion. Let's respect the kicker. Let's respect the players. And let's respect the game. I'm Mo Tufad. I'm making that appeal to all fans around the world. And I'd like you guys to join me again on hopefully Friday, when hopefully we'll be announcing the next lineup for the teams going into the weekend. We are facing Portugal, I believe. I'm not quite sure who New Zealand will be facing now next, but probably Argentina. I'm not sure, but I will bring that to you all during the weekend. And guys, yeah, I would love for you to join me over there. And going into the weekend, always remember to keep the beers going and the fires lit as well. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't done so. And peace out.